Good morning. You're going to see a lot of me today, and I apologize about that in advance. If you get sick of me, just know the end will be coming eventually. And to be safe, I'm not as comfortable speaking as I am singing, so we've planned to interject a few songs just in case things go south. Hopefully that will redeem us at some point in the process. So just give you that. So I'm excited to be here. I really am. Ray and Jane are up in Nashville, Tennessee this morning. He's speaking at Grace Point, which is where Stan Mitchell, who's been here several times, that's where he typically leads. And so Ray's excited to be the guest speaker there. And of course we miss him, but we know that Grace Point is getting a real treat just having him there to speak for them. So we miss them, wish them well. And so let's get into it. So I do, before I get too far into it, I want to say I don't consider myself a preacher. That term makes me nervous. So I do have feelings and I have thoughts that I feel led to share, but you're not going to walk away with 3 bullet points that all start with the letter C this morning. So just know that that's kind of where we're going today. So this year, Ray has spent a lot of time talking about our village values and what those are, what they mean, how important it is to understand your values and to know where you stand on certain things. And I've really appreciated, his heart in that and just kind of painting a clear picture of who we are at the village and what we believe in. And a lot of the examples that he's given when he's been speaking about this have been corporate examples of values and corporate purposes. And so this morning, I would love to share with you the corporate purpose of the company that I get to work for Monday through Friday. So I work for a chicken restaurant that's based out of Atlanta that is primarily known for being closed today. I'll give you a hint. It's Chick-fil-A. And so I have had the honor of being employed at Chick-fil-A for the past 3 years. And I will say it has been a huge blessing to our family. We love Chick-fil-A. They've been wonderful to us. And so they have a corporate purpose just like anybody else. And so I wanted to share that with you this morning and then take a piece of that and really dig a little bit deeper into what that could mean for us. So if we can get it up on the screen. Chick-fil-A's corporate purpose is to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that is entrusted to us and to be a positive influence on all who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And to be completely transparent, I did speak on this a couple of weeks ago at work, and so you're getting the recycled version. But this morning, I really want to focus in on positive influence and what that means. And I would like to address that I know that there are a lot of people in this world, there are a lot of people in this country, there are a lot of people maybe even in this room who would not associate positive influence when they think about Chick-fil-A. And I'm not here to preach on Chick-fil-A. I'm not here to convince you whether or not Chick-fil-A is a good company or not. That's not what I'm here to do. But I do think that we can learn a lot about what it means to be a positive influence and what that looks like and how we can show up for people in a real way and be that positive influence. I think for Christians, the easy answer, if we're thinking through who a positive influence is for us, I think the easy answer is Jesus. That's like what we're supposed to say. But I think it's such an easy answer because it's true. Because when we look through the Bible and we see his interactions and his encounters with other people, time after time after time, we see that he is a positive influence for everyone. And I think what's really interesting about Jesus is his approach never really looks the same, that he doesn't have a one-size-fits-all approach to his interactions with everyone, that he really pays attention to where they are, and he makes sure that he's meeting their need and he's meeting them where they are. When I think through his life and I think through different kind of various examples of that, I think about when he turned water into wine, which Derek jokingly said that, of course, my sermon would have wine as a part of it at some point. I love wine. That's okay to say. I love wine. But I think this is just a very simple and a very subtle way that Jesus is a positive influence to people. It was a celebration, and in that time it was customary to have wine that lasted the entire ceremony and the entire celebration, and they ran out of wine. And he didn't make a big spectacle about anything, but he met the need. Very simple. Not a big deal, not a grandiose gesture, but he met a need, and he met people where they were. Maybe a better example of him being a positive influence is when he tells the story about the prodigal son, which for me is one of my favorite stories in the whole Bible. And I think we're all fairly familiar with this story, but it's a story about a son who requests his inheritance early. And then he goes off and he lives his life and he squanders the money. And he finds himself in the lowest season of his life. And I can only imagine the courage that it took him to not only make the decision that he was going to go back home, but then to follow through with it. Because I'm sure when he was going home and he was preparing himself for the interactions he was going to have, he was preparing himself for the reminders of the disappointment that he was and the reminders of the failures he had done. But that's not what he received. Because when he was returning home and he caught eyes with his father ran to him and embraced him and loved him and showed him compassion, because his father knew in that moment that in order to be a positive influence for him, a lecture is not what he needed right then. That a reminder of a list of all the things he had done wrong and the ways he could have done things a little bit better was not what was needed in that moment. That in that moment, what he needed was an embrace and compassion and love. To me, probably the greatest example in the entire Bible of Jesus being a positive influence was his entrance into the world. I think about kind of the climate during that time, politically and economically. There was a lot of chaos. And even though technically it was a time of peace, there was still very much the understanding that Caesar's boot was on the neck of the people and that everyone was still very oppressed by his rule. And God could have sent his son as a militant ruler, because honestly, that's what a lot of the people were really hoping for. They were praying for someone to come in on a white horse and fight their battle and save the day. But God, in his infinite wisdom, he understood that that was not the best approach. He understood that in order to make the impact that he wanted on his people and to be the positive influence that he wanted Jesus to be, that he needed to come as a baby, as one of them, God with us. So, the people that put Christmas decorations out in like March, or they're listening to Christmas music a little too early in the season, at the risk of being one of those people, I'm going to interject a Christmas song right now. But it's not a traditional Christmas song, but it is one that I think we do pretty much every year for the past 4 or 5 years. And it's just a beautiful description of Jesus' entrance into the world and how he could have come in a slew of different ways. There were so many different approaches he could have taken to enter in this world. But he understood that the important thing was to make that positive influence and that the approach was important.
Could have come like a mighty storm with all the strength of a hurricane. You could have come like a forest fire with the power of heaven in your flame. But you came like a winter snow. You were quiet, you were soft and slow, falling from the sky in the night to the earth below. Could have stepped in like a tidal wave, or in an ocean to ravish our hearts. You could have come through like a roaring flood to wipe away the things quiet, you were soft and slow. Falling from the sky in the night to the earth below. No, your voice wasn't in a bush burning. No, your voice wasn't in a rushing wind. It was still, it was small, it was hidden. Oh, you came like a winter snow, quiet, soft, slow, falling from the sky in the night to the earth below. Oh, yeah. You came falling from the sky in the night to the earth below.
There's going to be a few awkward transitions, so just, roll with it. So when I was preparing for this talk and I was thinking about positive influences, naturally I had a few people that were in my life that came to mind. I'm sure you're the same. When you think about positive influences in your life, there's probably a long list of people, but there's a few people that kind of land at the top of that list. And so I did want to share with you a few people who have played a positive role in my life. I want to start with my granny. If we can get a picture of her. Oh, don't let that sweet smile fool you. She's a feisty one. So my granny obviously has known me my entire life, but she and I have always had a very special bond. And I am one of 7 grandchildren, but I'm the only granddaughter. And so I like to believe that I'm the favorite. And I also like to tell the rest of my cousins and my brother that I'm the favorite as well. Pretty regularly. But the truth is, she has a special relationship with everybody that she knows. She's a very thoughtful and a very kind and compassionate person. And I am so grateful for her influence in my life because of those things. Another thing that I've learned from her a little bit is how to budget money. She's very financially frugal, and she's a coupon crazy person. She's not one that's going to like swipe the aisle, but she's got a system. It's very professional and legit. And she would be mortified if she knew I was sharing this, but I invited her and she didn't come, so she doesn't get a say. But if I can show another picture of her. So this is evidence of me driving the getaway car as she stole coupons out of her innocent neighbors' driveways. Now, I would like to say that's the only time she's done that, but it is not. So there's my positive influence. That's one of them. But she has a great sense of humor. I'd like to think that I've pulled some of that from her. She's been an incredible influence in my life and my children's life, and I love getting to watch them interact with her as well. When I think about another influence in my life, I think a lot of people in this room would agree with this next person because most of you are here because you've interacted with him. But Ray is a huge positive influence in my life, or Big, as our children call him. He embodies positivity. He embodies encouragement. If you've spent 2 seconds with him, you know that he just pours encouragement into anyone that he comes in contact with. And it's so genuine because he will tell you to your face that you are the best at whatever you're doing. And then he will look to the person to your right and he will tell them that they are the best at whatever they are doing. And if anyone else said it, it wouldn't feel genuine, but you know that he means it when he's saying it. And that's just the kind of person that he is. I would be remiss if I did not mention my husband. Thankfully, Ray had a good-looking, single, younger son. And so he influenced me to get married. So Ethan and our boys are certainly positive influences in my life. Ethan is the calm to my storm, I will say. I'm a little bit feisty like my granny, and Ethan is very much just even keel. He's go with the flow, which drives me crazy sometimes, but I need it. I need it more times than not. And then our boys teach me so much about the kind of person I want to be, the kind of person that I don't want to be. Patience more than anything else, I think. Forgiveness, grace, all of those things. I have learned more about that being a mom from them, and I'm very thankful for that. And then lastly, my very best friend, we've been friends since 6th grade. Her name is Angela Neal, and it's just kind of rare that we've been able to hold on to each other for that long. But she is one of my favorite people. And it's funny because we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we're complete opposites about. She's very homegrown. I'm very store-bought. She's, making meals from scratch, and I am buying whatever is the most convenient thing to just get my family fed. But it works, and it has worked since we were in 6th grade, and her influence on my life has been huge. I do believe I'm a better person because she's been a friend of mine for so many years, and I hope that will continue on. It's fun to see our kids grow up and the influences that she's even having on my kids, and she's teaching them things that I can't teach them. And so it's just been fun to see that. I think oftentimes as Christians, when we seek out to be a positive influence in someone's life, we typically attach an agenda to that. Do you know what I mean? I remember in church growing up that the goal or the mission was to witness to people and make disciples of them. That was our job. That's who we were, that was what we were supposed to do. That was the goal. That was the mission. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because I don't think that it is. But I think our approach in that makes a big difference. And if we're not meeting people where they are, then our agenda is not effective. Because at the end of the day, if being a positive influence is showing up and meeting people where they are, then our declaration of what we believe doesn't really change their hearts. And listen, I'm probably one of the most outspoken people that you will meet. Ethan and I, earlier this year, we did the Enneagram test, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's kind of a personality test. And it has 9 different numbers that it assigns to you and kind of describes the type of person that you are. I am an 8, which is known as the challenger, and I have mixed feelings about that title. Ethan is known as the peacemaker, so if that paints any kind of picture for you. But the challenger is also known as the defender. And so I have a tendency to just kind of at my core, my nature is to speak up when I feel like something's not right, or it's to fight for injustice. That's just who I am. But I am learning as I'm getting older that doesn't necessarily mean that an aggressive approach is the best approach most of the time. Because a lot of the time, it's meeting people where they are, understanding their story, understanding their background, and then walking them through that. And even Jesus had to make a stand from time to time. Like I think about when he turned the tables over at the temple. I was trying to think of a funny story for the kids, and this one seemed appropriate, but I was putting Avery to bed one night, and he had been kind of pushing my buttons all day long. He just wasn't listening. I had to repeat myself multiple times. And so he's brushing his teeth, he's getting ready for bed, and I'm standing beside him because he was kind of young, so I was still helping him brush his teeth at that time. And I don't even remember what he said, but he said something, and I had had enough. And so I popped him on the mouth, just a little tap. Everybody calm down. But he straightened up real quick, and he finished brushing his teeth, and he went and got in the bed. And as I'm tucking him in to bed, he just kind of looked at me and said, "Mama, are you going to apologize for punching me in the mouth earlier?" And I was like, "I didn't punch you in the mouth. First of all, don't go around telling people that Mama punched you in the mouth, because Mom will go to jail. And no, I'm not going to apologize to you because you were being disrespectful. I gave you several times to correct your behavior, and you didn't do it. You were being disrespectful." So even we have to turn tables every now and then. But I do think that turning tables should be the exception and not the standard if we're wanting to truly make a positive influence in people's lives. We all sit on different ends of the spectrum. We all have a personal journey that's led us to where we are now. And I think about in 20 years, like what I believe right now could look vastly different 20 years from now. That I may think that I've arrived to understanding everything right now in this moment, and I think I've come a long way, but there's still so much for me to learn. And so 20 years from now, it's gonna look totally different. And if we wanna be a positive influence, we have to meet people where they are right now on the spectrum. We live in a world that's full of opinions and voices and stances, and all too often those voices and opinions can drown out our ability to see God's face in other people. All too often their agendas block the ability to be a positive influence. In this church, we stand for equal rights for all races, for all genders, for all orientations, for all economic statuses. That's what we believe. Those are our values. And those are important, and we should never be afraid to state those things. And when you believe in something, you should stand for it. But it would be really, really arrogant for us to believe that everyone who walks through those doors believes the same things that we do. And Ray says time and time again, and I believe it, that we are an everybody church. And so if we say we're an everybody church, that means everybody. That doesn't just mean the people who see the things that we see them right now in this moment. Because I can promise you there was a time in my life where I didn't see things the way that I see them right now. And I'm so thankful for people that were in my life that influenced me, that positively influenced me. They didn't come at me with a strong agenda. They didn't preach at me. They talked to me. They had conversations with me. They helped me see things a little bit differently. I'm so thankful for those people because now I have a different view. I have a different perspective. But I want us to be so careful that we're not cutting off the conversation to people who just aren't there yet. Because it doesn't mean that they won't get there, and it doesn't mean that we don't still have some room to grow. Before I close, I wanted to share an old Facebook post that I came across recently. I posted this the day after the most recent presidential election, where tensions were high and opinions were higher. But as I read through it again this week, I feel like it really captured the heart of my message, that we are all sitting on different places of the spectrum, and that if we want to be a positive influence, that we have to meet people where they are. And we have to do that without an agenda. So this is what I wrote. My heart is full. I typed this acknowledging that not everyone feels this way tonight, and trust me, I get that. But still, my heart right now is full. Ethan and I sat in our living room tonight with people we know and people we love. We circled up, we got comfortable, and we had dialogue with other people. All of us coming from different stories, different races, different age groups, different financial brackets, different political views, but all flesh, all human, all real, all wondering, all searching. We spoke our hearts. We asked questions, and not just the easy ones, but the ones that may never be answered. We laughed. Some of us cried. We encouraged. We listened. We prayed. We loved. This is the big picture. All of us bringing something different to the table, to the polls, to the altar. None of us are the lump sum of our mistakes or of our successes. Nor are we the lump sum of the stereotypes that are placed on our race, our political party, our sexual orientation, our generation, our bloodline. We are all complex and individual people with a unique story to tell. And we bring that story to every decision we make, big or small. I refuse to believe that because someone voted a certain way, they in turn represent all of the flaws of their political party. Nor will I believe that the candidate for said party represents all of the flaws for their political party. God is good, always. His kingdom does not rest on electoral votes. He is offering us an opportunity and a responsibility to love, to listen, to keep the door open, and to step out of what is comfortable for us. Do not cut off the conversation before it starts. Conversations, when done with respect, can break down walls, they can open up hearts, and they can change the world. I'm convinced of this tonight more now than ever. People are good. I saw this in my house tonight, circled up with our closest friends. And I will see it tomorrow and the days after. It will not always be obvious, and some days I will have to seek it out. Yes, the appointed officials matter. Of course it does. It would be naive to believe that it doesn't. But my greatest influencers are not any that I have ever casted a vote for. They are the ones that I have done life with, who know me, have seen me cry, they've wrapped their arms around me, and they've loved me through my storms. Let us build our campaigns around them. We do this, and we all win every time. God, thank you for your son. Thank you for the example of what a positive influence can look like and the importance of understanding where people are on their journey. And that in order for us to be the positive influence that we want to be as individuals, as a church, God, that we need to show up for people in a real way. And we need to listen to them. And we need to have conversations that are real and are tough, but are loving and full of respect. May we understand that where we are is not necessarily where everyone else is. And it's not necessarily where we will be. God, I'm so thankful for you. I'm so thankful for your son. I'm so thankful for this church. I'm thankful for the heart of the people that sit in this congregation and every week look for ways to be a positive influence in the people that they come in contact with. God, may you fill our hearts with grace. May you fill our hearts with love. May we see people the way that you see people. And we pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Imagine there's no country. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to live or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. wonder if you can. No more greed or hunger, a brotherhood of men. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the